U.S. debt is now $3.7 turn. Should we be worried? As Donald Trump cheered the passage of his self-styled and officially named Big Beautiful Budget Bill through Congress this week, long-sown seeds of doubt about the scale and sustainability of U.S. borrowing from the rest of the world sprouted anew. Trump's tax-cutting budget bill is expected to add at least $3 trillion to the U.S.'s already eye-watering $3.7 tn debt pile. There is no shortage of critics of the plan, not least Trump's former ally, Elon Musk, who has called it a disgusting abomination. The growing debt pile leaves some to wonder whether there is a limit to how much the rest of the world will lend. Uncle Sam, those doubts have been showing up. Recently, in the weaker value of the dollar and the higher interest rate, investors are demanding to lend money to America. It needs to borrow this money to make up the difference between what it earns and what it spends every year. Since the beginning of this year, the dollar has fallen 10% against the pound and 15% against the euro. Although U.S. borrowing costs have been steady overall, the difference between the interest rates paid on longer-term loans versus shorter-term loans, what's known as the yield curve, has increased or steepened, signaling increased doubts about the long-term sustainability of U.S. borrowing. And that is despite the fact that the U.S. has lowered interest rates more slowly than the EU and the UK, which would normally make the dollar stronger because investors can get higher interest rates on bank deposits. On its current trajectory, he estimates the U.S. will soon be spending $10 tn a year in loan and interest repayments. The founder of the world's biggest hedge fund, Ray Dalio, believes that U.S. borrowing is at a crossroads. I am confident that the U.S. government's financial condition is at an inflection point, because if this is not dealt with now, the debts will build up to levels where they can't be managed without great trauma, he says. Fact-checking 3 key claims about Trump's megabill. U.S. loses last perfect credit rating amid rising debt. So what might that trauma look like? The first option is a drastic reduction in government spending, a big increase in taxes, or both. Secondly, as in previous crises, the U.S. central bank could print more money and use it to buy up government debt, as we saw after the great financial crisis of 2008. Ray Dalio suggests that cutting the budget deficit from its current 6% to 3% soon could head off trouble in the future. Trump's new budget bill did cut some spending, but it also cut taxes more. And so the current political trajectory is going the other way. Given that the full faith and credit of the U.S. Treasury underpins the entire global financial system, that would make the great financial crisis look like a picnic. But that can end up fueling inflation and inequality as the owners of assets like houses and shares do much better than those who rely on the value of labor. The third is a straightforward U.S. default. Can't pay, won't pay.